I played 300 days of Stardew Valley, but on hardcore mode. Hello everybody, this is GamerGar. Welcome back to another video of Stardew Valley. In this video we are going to play through another 100 in-game days on hardcore mode. Hardcore mode is basically a discount rate set at 25%, meaning it's going to be extremely hard to get perfection in this game. So we're aiming for the golden clock, we're aiming for the 4 obelisks, we're aiming for all the achievements to get perfection. Let's jump straight into it. Day 201, we're going to visit the wizard here, give him an iridium bar. This completes a nice quest for him, and the reward of course is 5,000 gold. That's really nice money there, especially with a discount rate of just 25%. We are then going to visit the quarry and we're going to cut down all these trees because we are going to need thousands and thousands of wood to make thousands of kegs. We are going to need so many kegs in order for us to get the golden clock. We had to start now. So we are going to pay the desert trader a visit today. We're going to get artifact troves because we want to get all of the artifacts unlocked in this game to unlock another star drop. So we're going to get Clint to break open all these artifact troves and we're going to donate all of them now to Gunther, and that is another achievement complete. One step closer to perfection. That is another star drop in the bag for us. The real challenge in this video will be trying to achieve 10 million gold to obtain the gold clock. That's going to be the killer challenge here. So we're going to visit Robin, we're going to upgrade a shed to a big shed. We are going to go for plenty of sheds in this video and fill them all up with kegs and crystallariums. So I made 40 kegs right there. I just had some materials lying around the place and I'll put those inside the shed. I'm also going to make one of each item here to get the craft all achievement. This is needed to get perfection. Now I don't actually have enough resources to craft all of the items in the game at the moment. I do run out of fiber. I also need some coal as well, and eventually I do end up running out of hardwood, so I just have to do a little bit more grinding to get that. I do however go back to the desert shed today because it's a Sunday, and I end up getting a whopping 401 staircases, trivializing any sort of future Skull Cavern run. I also spend the rest of the day just cutting down some trees. I start with the desert here because I need a lot more wood to make a lot more kegs. So I ended up wiping out all of the trees over on Ginger Island as well. The hardwood is definitely appreciated. Ginger Island has loads of hardwood trees ready to be cut down. Hardwood is needed to craft all of the items in the game. So the greenhouse is ready with another batch of ancient fruit. At the moment the ancient fruit growth rate in the greenhouse is staggering. So what I might do is I might just leave it a few days so that when I go into the greenhouse I can harvest it all in one fell swoop. So for the rest of the day I decided to go to the event and I actually got 2,000 gold for fishing up the most fish. It was nice. Last year I got fishing tackle, but I won't say no to any sort of money at this rate. It was time to get organised, so I'm going to pickaxe up all of these kegs and these will all be moved into sheds. And I also got lovely iridium starfruit wine from those casks as well. I was super happy with that. And the huge massive grind starts of putting starfruit into kegs. Eventually it'll be ancient fruit into kegs to get back wines, and the wines will more than likely do the trick for us when it comes to getting the golden clock. So it was time for the key quest. We'll go with Skull Cavern Invasion. 40 key gems, easy enough there, especially because we have so many staircases. We just have hundreds and hundreds of staircases. If I see radioactive ores or any sort of ores, I'll take them straight away because I need tons of ores still to make tons of really cool stuff to make my journey that little bit easier. Gold ores, iron ores, copper ores are all on the table for fast progression. If I'm going to make the 10 million gold, I was going to have to use everything at my disposal. Smelted some iridium ores here into iridium bars, and once this is all done, we're then going to craft some hyper speed grows. Now the reason for hyper speed grows is that we're going to put these on the beach farm so that the future ancient fruits will grow a lot faster, because we're going to grow thousands of ancient fruits come spring, so it's all about getting prepared for spring to come. Best place for bone fragments and of course for clay is the dig site by far. So I'm just going to speed it up here. I literally go here every couple of days once all the resources have replenished and I just harvest all those resources. I also got 4 deconstructors. I'm going to be utilising a new tactic in this video to make money, and the trick is going to be using deconstructors. So as we can see there, I just put a few staircases into the deconstructors to get back some stone. I will be selling stone in this video. I also purchased the magic rock candy because it was Thursday. As we can see, 1 jade converts into a staircase, and a staircase gives back 99 stone. That is 99 gold. That is almost doubling the value of a jade. So it might seem very small at the moment, but with a huge array of deconstructors later on, it does become quite an effective method to get bursts of cash every now and again, especially when you have a shed filled up to the top of crystallariums, and you can get hundreds and hundreds of staircases every single week. So it was time to make more items from the crafting bench. I needed iron bars primarily. So it was back to the mines and we were smelting iron ores into iron bars so we could try to finish off that craft all achievement, which means we're one step closer to perfection. So I went into my slime hutch today and there was loads of slime balls to be harvested, and all this slime will come in super handy later on in the game, especially when it comes to making cork bobbers and sturdy rings. This slime was going to come in so handy. Speaking of which, it was time to make an absolute ton of cork bobbers. All I needed to make these was wood, hardwood and slime, and I had tons of each resource. These cork bobbers sold for 250 gold a pop. On a small scale they wouldn't get you much, but making hundreds and hundreds of these would surely make a little bit of a difference. It was back to the crafting bench to craft more items. I was getting closer and closer all of the time to crafting all of the items in the game. What was really letting me down at the moment, believe it or not, was hardwood. I needed a lot more hardwood to finish off this achievement, so I needed to make the mini obelisk there. I also needed to make the solar panel, which required refined quartz. I also fished up a squid because I had to start looking at fish needed to craft all of the cooking recipes in the game as well. So this is my shed at the moment, filled up with some crystallariums. I will be making more crystallariums as the days go on. The more crystallariums I have, the more jades I can generate, the more staircases and stone I can get. So I made some deluxe retaining soil here, and this has a 100% chance to irrigate crops every single day, so that when I start putting some of the ancient fruit onto the beach farm, I won't need sprinklers at all. So I'm putting down mahogany seeds here for hardwood later on, because we're going to need tons of hardwood later on for various projects. And it was collecting more oak resins from these trees as well, because I needed to make a lot more cakes. I needed thousands of cakes. The Ginger Island farm was coming on quite nicely. It was more or less 50-50 at the moment between starfruit and ancient fruit. It was time to say goodbye to our lovely oak resin farm. We're going to use this space for crops instead come spring, so I just wanted to get it prepped now for ancient fruit, because the goal to getting the golden clock was going to be thousands and thousands of ancient fruit. So Haley wanted to have a baby. I said yes, of course, the more the merrier. Back into the greenhouse here, and it was time to harvest more ancient fruit. All of these ancient fruits will be converted back into ancient fruit seeds, because I wanted to literally fill up the beach farm with ancient fruits come spring. So all of the ancient fruits we get at the moment, they'll be converted back into seeds. All of these star fruits that are being picked up now at the moment won't be replanted back down. Instead, ancient fruits will take their place. Once all of Ginger Island has been covered with ancient fruits, we will then save all of the future seeds to go onto the beach farm. So we're going to need hyper speed grows, we're going to need deluxe retaining soils to make sure our lives are a little bit easier. So this is the last batch of starfruit that are going into the cakes. I'm also putting down hyper speed grow here on the Ginger Island farm so these ancient fruits will grow a lot faster. It was time for another key quest. I wasn't going to do Key's Cuisine because that's just impossible with a 25% discount rate. So we were going to go with Key's Prismatic Grange. So a few in-game hours later, I managed to complete that quest. I had most of the materials lying around, so it was a very quick quest to do. With the key gems I had at the moment, I decided to buy 2 batches of pressure nozzles. This would increase the range of sprinklers. This would also mean I can plant more ancient fruit seeds on the beach farm. So I checked out the auto grabber inside the coop, and I had an overwhelming amount of eggs, duck feathers, wool, and I wasn't really processing any of these items because I was just so busy doing other stuff. So I decided to just start processing some of these eggs to see if I can make some extra profit, because every single piece of gold was going to be necessary to get this gold clock by the end of the video. I took the Cave Patrol Special Orders quest here, so it was time to kill some lovely dust sprites. I took a monster musk. I had the quest done in no time at all. This was super beneficial as well because I was getting lots of coal from killing the dust sprites, and I needed tons of coal still to smelt tons of ores into bars. This is probably one of the most effective methods in the game when it comes to farming coal. There are certain ring combinations I could take to optimize this, but for now I was just happy with the monster musk. 6,000 gold for completing that quest. That was absolutely welcome, and I was closer to getting the gold clock. I had 55,000 gold. I needed 10 million. All of the mahogany trees had fully grown. It was time to cut them all down and stock up on an absolute ton of hardwood. It was then back to the crafting bench, and it was time to finish out the last few items I needed. Upon making the mini obelisk, I got the Craft Master achievement. We are now one step closer to perfection. It was time to visit Marnie. I had to buy some hay because I was running out of hay very quickly. So I just purchased 377 pieces there and just throw it into the mill. I decided to just sell all of the coop products before they were processed because I just wasn't going to have the time to keep processing them all. I didn't want to go farm more crystals either for mayonnaise machines, so I just sold them all as is. Went back to the mines, collected iridium bars. I was also collecting gold bars as well. I could sell all these too for loads of money. And if I had copper or iron, that was primarily going to go towards kegs. I also started to deconstruct more staircases because I wanted to get more stone so I could sell the stone as well. And bear in mind that 999 pieces of stone would give me 999 gold. But more importantly, I wanted to make more crystallariums. You need a lot of stone to make a lot of crystallariums. So these deconstructors were an absolute game changer for me. So it was back to my big shed where all my crystallariums were. I had 56 new crystallariums ready to go, so eventually we were going to have a shed filled up with crystallariums, generating jades. It was also back to Ginger Island, pulling up more ancient fruit from the ground here, and that would all be converted back into ancient fruit seeds. And I then went back to the Desert Trader, day 217 now, so we're getting there. 531 staircases. So we were doing really well with staircases. Because I had a slime hutch maxed out with slimes, slime ball generation was also really good as well. Every few days I could go into the slime hutch here and get tons of slime. I'm at 51 more kegs by the end of the day just to increase my wine output. So I had loads of kegs here now at the moment, but I still needed a lot more shades and I still needed a lot more ancient fruit seeds. Day 218, it was time for another special orders quest. This time Clint wanted me to kill 50 bats and I'll do that for him, no problem. It was also time for another key quest. We'll do extended family because there wasn't a hope we were going to play the Junimo Kart game. I'm just so bad at Junimo Kart. But I wouldn't have any problem at all fishing up those legendary fish, especially with all of the gear that I could access now because I was in the end game. It was also time to start filling up all these kegs with more starfruit for more starfruit wine. And we're finishing up today by starting our quest to get some of the legendary fish, starting with the Glacierfish Jr. Very difficult catch indeed. Then we get down to the sores, get the radioactive carp. The next day the greenhouse is ready to go again with more ancient fruit. So we're going to pick all those up. We're also going to pick up all the ones in Ginger Island as well. And we'll harvest those back into seeds for the lovely beach farm come spring. We're now closing in on spring, just a few days to go. So we're going to end up with over 1,000 ancient fruit seeds ready to go for the beach farm. So it'll be a real nice spring setup for us. We also had a shed now filled up to the top of crystallariums. I also went to Pierre and I decided to purchase 5 of every single crop that he had to prepare myself for crafting all of the cooking recipes in the game. I didn't need to purchase 5 of each crop, but I didn't know which ones I needed and which ones I didn't, so I just purchased 5 of everything just to be safe. I also went to Sandy as well and purchased more starfruit, rhubarb and beets. Didn't need to purchase the cactus seeds because you can just pick those up in the desert easy enough. So I also went to the winter star event here. I gave Leo some cheese. I was hoping for a tea set, which is why I went to this event. I already had all of the relationships maxed out. I got a pink cake off Maru, not too bad at all, but I'll just end up selling that. I also gave Gus a coconut here as well. This completes another quest, and this awards me with 600 gold. So I still wasn't going to turn down any quest that I got, unless of course Clint was looking for copper ores. That was a huge no. Give Willie a link cut here as well. 550 gold in the bag. Thank you very much, Willie. So it was back to running to the mines. The goal was 50 bats. If I saw iron ores or anything else along the way, I would get those as well. Killing 50 bats is quite easy, especially using a monster musk, and the reward is always going to be quite good. Any sort of reward that you get from Clint when it comes to slaying monsters is always a good reward. 6,000 gold, which was great. So you're probably wondering why I haven't sold any of the wines yet. It's because I do not currently possess the artisan perk for the farming profession. I will eventually switch over to that perk later on and I will sell all those wines because they will be worth 40% more. And that is a staggering amount, especially with the 25% discount rate. I need all the money I can get, so I need to maximise all the perks that my character can attain. It was back to the quarry now again. All the trees have fully grown back. Having the path down makes it super easy to replant seeds and to put tree fertilizers on those as well. During the night, Haley gave birth to a baby girl. I called it Rory because I thought it was a boy, so I just slipped up there a little bit. Grandpa also visited me in my dreams and he was so proud of the job that I'd done on the farm. As a reward, I got a statue of perfection, and this little beauty generates iridium ore every single day. We were now in spring. It was time to put all of our lovely ancient fruit seeds down on the farm. So these ones were going to get hyper speed grows because I could use sprinklers with these ones, and the rest of the seeds then planted elsewhere on the beach farm would get the deluxe retaining soil. Having the iridium tools made it super easy to cultivate up the land and to get all these seeds planted before the day ended. I also activated rain totems as well, so I wouldn't have the water crops that I just didn't have enough deluxe retaining soil for. So I had enough truffle oils to make tons and tons of rain totems going forward, which was great. Even if I didn't have the rain totems, I did have an iridium watering can, so watering up the rest of the crops down there wouldn't be too much of a hassle anyway. The Ginger Island farm is now full to the top with ancient fruit as well, so things were looking good. It's time for another key quest. So I was looking at the key crops. 100 key gems was difficult to pass down. I said I'd take on the quest. Key's kindness would still be very difficult, as I didn't have a whole lot of items on hand for loved gifts. So I spent a great portion of the day just fishing up key beans. I also had a new big shed filled up to the top with kegs, ready to process my lovely ancient fruit into ancient fruit wine. So we are going to be looking at thousands upon thousands of ancient fruit wine by the time we get to the end of this video. It was also back to the greenhouse to harvest all of the ancient fruit in here as well, and this ancient fruit would not be converted into seeds, it would just be converted into wine instead. It was time to go to Robin and get her to build another shed. Then it was down to the Skull Cavern to get some resources. I needed iridium, I needed gold, I needed iron, I needed copper. I basically needed everything. Iridium still had some value when it comes to selling it. Iridium bars with the blacksmith perk, even with a 25% discount rate, still weren't too shabby at all. So, day 229, Gifts for George was the quest of the day for us, and we just had to give a dozen leeks to Evelyn to complete that quest. I got really lucky here. Just north of the farm there was 3 leeks on the ground. Unfortunately, the Gatherer perk didn't activate and I didn't get any double leeks there. It was also back to our lovely slime hutch to harvest all of the slime balls and get a lot more slime so we can make some great stuff going forward. So, day 230, it was time to harvest the first batch of key fruit, and all this key fruit was going to be put into seed makers to make more key beans, and this process would be repeated until I had enough key seeds to plant on the ground to finish off the quest. In terms of all of the key quests that are available to you, I find that this one is definitely the longest and most difficult to do because of the fact that it takes constant grinding to actually find these key beans in the first place, but it's always worth it because 100 key gems is absolutely nothing to snuff at. 99 more kegs were created today. They will go into a shed and they will process ancient fruit into ancient fruit wine. It was back to Robin, of course, and it was time to upgrade another regular shed into a big shed, so we would have Robin primarily working around the clock. I also came across the trash bear. He wanted a daffodil, gave him that straight away. I do attempt to do his chain quest so he cleans up the beach. You don't need it for perfection, but it was extra content for this video because I suppose the last thing you want to see me do is just sleep, harvest ancient fruit and just sleep all over again. Because once we finish all these other achievements, that's what it turns into. So it was time to finally craft all of the food items in the game. All the crops I purchased have been fully grown, so I have harvested all those. I had all the fish needed and I just got the Gourmet Chef achievement there, one step closer to perfection. So we now had all items crafted, we had all recipes made. There was only a few things left for us to do to get perfection. Another key quest for precious stones. We had prismatic shards to burn. Let's have a look at the perfection tracker. 86% at the moment. All we needed now was the gold clock and the 4 obelisks on the farm. So these requirements required money. So what you're going to see going forward is a huge grind fest of me trying to assemble 10+ million gold to afford the gold obelisks and to afford the gold clock. And the main tactic we're going to use to achieve this is ancient fruit converted into ancient fruit wine, and eventually we'll sell all the wine with the artisan perk to obtain millions of gold. At the moment we had a lot of kegs on the farm, so it did take the majority of the day to replenish the stocks in these kegs and to harvest all of the current ancient fruit wines. The hardest part about the challenge now was finding the willpower to constantly grind out the ancient fruits on the farm and put them into the kegs every couple of days. Now it did take over 6 days for the keg to process the ancient fruit, so it would basically be a weekly activity where 1 day per week it would take almost a whole day to replenish the wines in those kegs. So it was back to getting key fruit, converting them back into key beans, planting those on the farm. All future key gems that I was going to get now were going to go into deconstructors. So my goal was to literally have a house filled up to the top with deconstructors so I could process tons of staircases into stone and sell the stone for a decent profit. So I was back to the greenhouse, and what's happened now is that all of the ancient fruits are ready because I left the greenhouse a few days, so I would only have to go in there kind of once a week to harvest all of the ancient fruit. I also picked up the last leek I needed for the special orders quest. I gave 12 leeks into Evelyn. She was super happy with that, 2,000 gold in the bag, but Evelyn will also send me a special item the next day that I can add to my farm as well. special item being a coffee machine. So I went with Gus's famous omelets, just needed to get 24 eggs to complete that quest. That would be super easy to do. Back into regular mines, I was looking for copper ore badly, needed copper to make more kegs. I had lots of iron and I had lots of oak resins and lots of wood. Copper was the resource that was letting me down at the moment. Copper is one of those resources where if you're at the very beginning of the game or the very end of the game, it's something you always seem to need, because kegs are something you always seem to need if you want to make the big money. So it was back into the Skull Cavern. I was farming ores of all types. I was getting some key beans too from blowing open some of the nodes, which was good. I actually come out of here with tons of key beans that I can actually plant on the farm, which was quite useful. Day 237. It is time to harvest all these key fruit. I would have to make extra space in the farm to put down the rest of the key beans once all these seed makers were finished, but I did have an iridium hoe and an iridium watering can, so it wasn't too much of a challenge at all to quickly make more space for all these key fruit to be planted. We also had to think about maximum output capacity when it came to converting ancient fruit into wine, and Robin was going to help us with that. It was time to finally get another shed put on the farm. It was also time to go back to the quarry and to get all the wood off these trees, so we're just going to rinse and repeat the tactic here of cutting down all the trees, replanting the seeds, and then using tree fertilizer so that the trees will grow back very quickly. So it was time for another key quest. The weeks are coming around super fast. We're going to go with 4 precious stones again because we had so many prismatic shards it wasn't even funny. It was also time for another special orders quest. This time we're going to go with Robin's Resource Rush. Collect 1,000 pieces of stone. Deconstructors will trivialize that quest altogether. So I put the prismatic shards into the box there and I got more key gems back as a reward. I also went into my coop here and more eggs had generated for the Gus quest. So I grabbed all those, I'll give those to Gus later on. It was also time to use my deconstructors and to deconstruct some staircases back into stone, completing Robin's Resource Rush super fast. That was 2,500 gold in the bag. So I had 24 eggs in total. I went into the saloon here, put these into Gus's fridge, and that was another quest completed for Gus, awarding me with a lovely 3,000 gold, so that was more money in the pocket for us. So these gold gains were very small, but they do help in the long run, and when it comes to the end, when it comes to the crunch, all these quests do, as a matter of fact, make a huge difference. So I sold some key fruit today, and with the rest of the key beans that I had, I just planted those on the farm. The reason why I'm getting so many rainy days is because I keep activating rain totems. I still had plenty of rain totems left. And it was time to finally harvest all of the ancient fruit wine from the kegs, which basically takes a whole day. The next day, look at all these ancient fruits. We had tons of them on the beach farm. I was able to harvest this batch right now because I used Hyper Speed Grow. All of the other ancient fruits, or most of them, are using Deluxe Retaining Soil, so I would have to wait a few more days before I could get my hands on those. I also had a shed here filled up to the top with jades, so I was going to harvest all these lovely jades. The Ginger Island farm was also filled up to the top with ancient fruits ready to be harvested as well. So we are going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of ancient fruits to be converted into wine by the time this day is out. So I started looking into other ways to make money. I had a huge amount of cloth here. I started putting those into looms. I also made tons of cock bobbers because I just had so much slime, hardwood and regular wood. And I just sold all of the cock bobbers. I do sell quite the amount of cock bobbers, which makes a difference. It was also time to go back to Robin as well. It was time to upgrade the shed she built a few days ago into another big shed. So the trend continues. It was also back down into Skull Cavern. Got 2 rain totems here from a chest. Activated one straight away, which means I wouldn't have to water crops tomorrow. So that was super handy. And I also spent the rest of the day just getting more materials from the Skull Cavern so I can make more kegs and other bits and bobs. So it was back to the quarry to get more wood because I needed to make even more kegs. You're not going to believe the amount of kegs that we're going to have by the time we get to the end of this challenge. I also had tons of slime balls to harvest to get loads of slime. So if I wanted to make more cock bobbers down the road, I could do that no problem at all. I filled up a big shed with kegs and I had still over 100 kegs left over from the huge amount of kegs that I made. So I placed those outside the farm. I also put down a path as well just to add some sort of structure to the farm. It would also mean that I wouldn't have to worry about debris damaging the kegs or the crops going forward. Once all the kegs were down, it was time to go into day number 245, so we're almost halfway there. These key fruits will be the last key fruits I needed in order to complete the key crop quest. This will give me 100 key gems in total, which means I can get loads of deconstructors from this. I also went to the desert trader and I got over 1,000 staircases because so much jades had accumulated. To be exact, almost 1,458 staircases added to my lovely inventory. It was time to pick up another key quest. Of course, we do Danger in the Deep, because that was going for 50 key gems, and I could just staircase my way down to the bottom within a few in-game hours anyway, so it's no problem at all. This time I purchased a whopping 9 deconstructors. It was time to drastically increase the output of my lovely precious stone, and I could sell that for loads of money. So, day 246, it was down into the hardened versions of the mines. I got down very quickly because I had staircases to burn, activated the shrine, completed the quest, got my key gems, left the mines. It was time to deconstruct more staircases back into stone. Eventually I end up selling hundreds and hundreds of full stacks of stone, and you'd actually be quite surprised how much money this will actually net me. So the more deconstructors I can amass, the more money I can make on a daily basis, because I had hundreds of staircases to work with. So it was time to fill up another big shed with more ancient fruit. It was also time to fill up all these kegs as well. So what we're going to see now is every 6 to 7 days we're going to see a huge wine harvest that's literally going to take the whole day to pull off. We're going to go with Robin's Resource Rush again because it was just so easy to do. It was more or less free money because we got to keep the stone as well, so we could sell the stone for extra profit. Look at all the deconstructors I had now. 2500 gold in the bag. We're doing pretty well at the moment. But the big question remains, can we get the gold clock by day 300? That's going to be the big challenge. So we spent the majority of today just harvesting up all of the ancient fruit. As we can see, we have tons and tons of ancient fruit, so it does take the bulk of today to get that done. So I made a tough decision. I decided to sell my animals. I wasn't really using them anymore, and I got 20k plus for some of these animals, which was really good. So they were worth quite a lot of money because most of them were on maximum hearts. Some of them were almost on maximum hearts. I then went to Robin, and it was time to demolish some buildings to make room for more sheds. So I got rid of the coop, the mill, the barn, and I also got rid of the fishing pond as well. They did of course serve us well, but it was time to industrialize this farm a little bit more to maximize profits. I also got the golden daily quest. Gus wanted a diamond, 2250 gold, so I done that straight away. I had diamonds to burn as well. I had so much materials locked away in the chest, it was just insane. So that was more money added to my wallet, and I just spent the rest of the day going through Sinnersap Forest, cutting down some trees here, assembling more wood because the grind for wood never ends. Needed wood to make more kegs, needed wood to make cork bobbers and things like that. So I spent a great portion of today just putting staircases into the deconstructors, getting back stone. I also had a lot of copper bars to work with here as well, so keg production could be continued easy enough. It was time to harvest more ancient fruit. Look at all this lovely fruit that we're going to pick up. All this will go into kegs of course the next day. I'm just going to quickly show you what I have in my chest at the moment. I had well over 1,000 pieces of ancient fruit there. Close to 1500 actually. So what was happening now was that I needed more kegs badly. I was actually losing out on money by not having those inside kegs. As a result, it was time to go to Robin and upgrade a shed to another big shed. Back to the deconstructors. You will be seeing lots of this because all of this stone that I do sell, it pays off greatly in the long run. It does accumulate. I dare say I could potentially make almost 1 million gold just from selling all of the stone that I sold for these 100 days. Now I didn't add it up, but I'm pretty sure I came close, because each stone is worth 1 gold, and when you have all those deconstructors, it does accumulate quite fast. Back to the desert trader, 580 more staircases. This of course trivializes the skull cavern, and it also means that I can get more stone to sell as well. Look at all this lovely stone that I'm going to sell. I do spend enormous amounts of time deconstructing staircases into stone because I'm just waiting on the ancient fruit and waiting on the cake. So in my spare time, that is the primary tactic I'm using to make money. Look at all the gold that I'm getting for all the stone that I from the staircases that I deconstructed. Just tons of it. It was time for another key quest. This time we're going with Keys Hungry Challenge because it awarded more key gems. 25 key gems for doing that, and all I needed was staircases to trivialize that challenge. So back into the skull cavern. And when I got down to floor 100, I got some bombs. Not bad, there's always a need for bombs of course. Spent the rest of the day just doing the usual farming for resources. If I saw barrels as well, I always prioritised the barrels. I whacked them up because there's always a chance I can get another lucky ring from a barrel. So I only have 1 lucky ring still at the moment. It would be really nice to get a second one before I achieve perfection. That is of course if I can achieve perfection on this run. Let's take a look at all of these kegs filled up to the top with ancient fruit wine. There is just hundreds of it here. Eventually I'll end up coming out with over 1,000 ancient fruit wines every single week, and you might think to yourself, you'll reach perfection in no time, but because the discount rate is so low, it hits hard every single time you sell it, making perfection extremely difficult to get. So we're going to go back to Robin, build another shed, then upgrade that to a large shed. The trend continues, of course. I put more kegs down on the Ginger Island farmhouse here as well, just to fill up more space. It does take the majority of the day now, if not the whole day, to fill up all these kegs with ancient fruit. I also went into the volcano dungeon today, just for a break from the usual hustle and bustle of the usual daily activities. I was hoping for a hot Java ring, but the game just refuses to give me one. So, day 256, a time for another special orders quest. We're going to go with Gus's famous omelette. I make a huge mistake by selecting that quest because I sold all of my coop critters. I couldn't actually do that quest. I also get Robin to upgrade my shed to a big shed, and of course it was back to the slime hutch as well, to harvest all of the slime balls into slime. So as you can see, a trend has occurred where I'm following a very specific roadmap every single week to try to maximize my profits. So I decided to harvest some bug meat today. I used monster musk, I also used a napalm ring to maximize bug meat collection. So I found an infested floor here, but it was floor 24, which means I couldn't spam this floor over and over, but I did have staircases to burn, so I could technically spam this floor over and over for the whole day to get tons of bug meat. The reason why I wanted tons of bug meat was so I could make tons of sturdy rings, as those rings sold for 750 gold a pop, and that was a lot of money per item with the challenge that I was doing at the moment. So I literally spent the whole day inside the mines just slaying bugs. So day 258, look at all of the ancient fruit. It was all ready to be harvested. It was going to take me the whole day to harvest all of these ancient fruits, but it would be worth it, because once they're all harvested I could then put them into the kegs the next day, which also takes a whole day because I had so many kegs built. Speaking of kegs built, another shed was fully upgraded. It was time to fill it up to the top with kegs. Once this was achieved, it was then back to Robin for the usual story. It was to get Robin to build, yes, another shed. We're going to put that right on the farm, and that will be upgraded to a big shed as well. I'm going to put it over here where I demolished all of the animal buildings, and I'll also put some kegs over there as well to have them on the outside. Back down into the mines, looking for bug meat. We're also looking for copper ores. I find a nice mound of it here, which is really nice because I still needed a lot more resources to make a lot more kegs. I also got an infested floor on floor 28, which was nice, so if I wanted to I could spam that floor for the whole day to get tons of bug meat. Day 260 was basically a day of filling up kegs with more ancient fruit to make ancient fruit wine. That's all I done on day 260. It now requires a full day to get this done because there's just so many kegs on the farm. The next day it was time for another key quest. We're going to go with Skull Cavern Invasion, of course. 40 key gems, easy enough. That means more deconstructors for us. When I went down into the Skull Caverns, I always stop on a floor like this when it's just filled up to the top with lovely valuable resources. It never gets old in my opinion, where you just blow open a ton of ores to get loads of resources. The casks were also finished. It was time to get Iridium Starfruit Wine, so that'll sell for nice money indeed. So it was time to get 4 more deconstructors. I'm going to put those back in the farmhouse over in Stardew Valley. That means my lovely stone farming tactic will become even more lucrative. Who would have thought that I would rely on stone so much to try to get 10 million gold? Never would have guessed it in a million years, unless of course I did the challenge. So this is all the stone I sold, and this is basically 2 days worth of accumulating stone using deconstructors. And as we can see, there's a lot of stone there. Back to the mines to get more copper. It was always copper I needed. I seemed to have enough iron. Copper was always the crux though. It was always copper. Story of my life, farming copper. It doesn't matter what challenge I do, doesn't matter what 100th video it is, it comes down to copper ores. I did however make tons of sturdy rings, and I could sell those directly to Marlon, 750 gold for each one. So once this was done, it was time to go to the Statue of Uncertainty and switch up my professions. I wanted to sell the wine that I had currently accumulated to see how far off I was from making the 10 million gold to get the gold clock. So I switched up a few professions here. I'm going to start with foraging because I wanted to get more wood from the trees, and of course farming to get the artisan so the wine sold for 40% more. So I went with forester there too, and lumberjack. So that's more wood and hardwood for me, which means I can make more tackles and other stuff like that. This is all the wine I currently had accumulated, so I'm going to sell all that, and it'll be interesting to see just how much gold I get from all that wine. So it took a serious effort to grind all that out, but we were just getting started, folks. So that netted me 4.6 million, not even halfway there to get this gold clock. At this moment in time, I just couldn't even fathom getting the gold clock, you know, within these 300 days. I thought to myself I would more than likely need another 100 days of content to actually get it, but we will find out towards the end of the video. So, day 266, and it was the usual picking up all of the ancient fruit. This took the majority of the day because we had to pick it up inside the greenhouse, inside the Stardew Valley farm, and over on Ginger Island. The next day it was the same, we had to fill up all the kegs, and we had kegs in so many sheds now. We had kegs on the Stardew Valley farm, and we had kegs over on Ginger Island. It literally took the whole day to get this job done. But it was going to be worth it, and if we wanted to get the gold clock, this is what we had to do. Of course, we're going to go with more key quests, another Skull Cavern Invasion. I couldn't believe the luck I was getting with Skull Cavern Invasion because it meant more radioactive ores, and they sell for 1,000 gold a bar. So any time I got a quest like that, I was just really happy about it. If I saw radioactive ores, I would always prioritise them because 1,000 gold per bar is absolutely nothing to snuff at. So at this stage of the game, I was getting quite bored in terms of just grinding because there was nothing else to do. All I was doing was basically just picking up the ancient fruit, doing key quests, filling up the kegs, and that was it. And all I could do to shorten that time span down was to just make more kegs. Because I had so much ancient fruit that I could just keep making more and more kegs all the time. So I put some kegs down in the cellar there, as you saw, and I had a lot of mahogany trees that fully grown on the Stardew Valley farm, so I spent a good portion of the day cutting down those and massing more hardwood so I could make more cork bobbers and whatnot down the road. I also found a little secret area here, and I fished up a real cool painting of a boat. You can only get this on the beach farm, so it's a nice painting. I put that inside the house. The kids might appreciate it. It was back to the usual deconstructing staircases into stone because the stone tactic was actually working for me. It might be hard to see it because I needed so much money for the gold clock, but the little gains here and there would certainly pay off towards the end. So, day 273, the weeks are coming around real fast now because there isn't much I can do during each day. I'm just harvesting more ancient fruit. Back over to Ginger Island, we're going to harvest all this ancient fruit as well, and then we're going to put all this into the kegs the next day. So the trend continues. Basically, it'll be utilising this tactic until I have enough money to get the golden clock. The big question is, how long is that going to take? Will I be able to do it within 300 days? We're actually going to find out very soon because we're now on day 275, so we're almost there. Time for another key quest. We're going to do Keys Hungry Challenge. That's another run to the Skull Cavern, which is nice. There's always room in our inventory for lovely ores. Now, I have been letting those iridium ores accumulate. Eventually, I will end up selling tons of iridium bars. So by the end of the day, I'm at 155,000 gold, and this was mostly because of the ancient fruit that had over accumulated. I just didn't have enough kegs right now to keep up with the ancient fruit demand that was happening on the farm, but that's something we might try to remedy down the road. Back to the slime hutch, of course. We were getting more slime balls. It's just so satisfying breaking open those slime balls. Then it was back to Marlin, of course. I was making more sturdy rings to sell to him, because 750 gold for a ring is pretty good, and I just really wanted to get this gold clock. So I was using every method at my disposal. If it came to making rings, I would absolutely do that. Fishing tackle was also on the line as well. So I fished up another decorative item today. This one was a decorative trash can. Now, it doesn't actually function as a trash can, but it was a nice decoration to be put on the farm. I decided to go to the trash bear as well. He wanted an octopus, and I thought my fishing days were over, so I went down to the beach, tried to get an octopus for him later on. It was time for another Robin's Resource Rush. I was so happy from getting these quests all the time. That was going to be another easy 1,000 stone collected and money from Robin in the bag. So I attempted to get the octopus today. I managed to actually get it on my first attempt. I was quite surprised because I hadn't fished in quite some time at all. So I was going to give this to the trash bear. Then I realised he doesn't actually appear on rainy days. I'd have to go to him on a non-rainy day to give him that octopus to complete his quest. It was time to deconstruct more staircases back into stone. What else was I going to do with my time, you know? That was Robin's Resource Rush quest completed. That was more money in the bag for me. So that was another 2,500 gold from Robin's Resource Rush. And after deconstructing tons of staircases, I had tons of stone to sell. Each stack of stone was bringing in almost 1,000 gold. So it was worth the time effort. So I made tons of money today from selling primarily iridium bars. They accumulated over the past season. 249,000 gold. I was super happy with that. Mining really came true for me. I also started pulling up more secret items from the game. I got the solid gold Lewis statue there. Then I went up behind the community centre and I got the Junimo statue from there as well. There was still other collectibles I had to get, so we'll get those systematically over the next few days. I didn't need those for perfection, I just wanted other stuff to do. So I decided to enchant my fishing rod. I wanted the master enchant, and it took a few goes to get it. The reason why I wanted master is so that I didn't have to get a key seasoned seafoam pudding to get the iridium crobus later on. I also filled up the physics 101 from the volcano. That was another nice picture I could add to my house to make it beautiful. I did have a seafoam pudding lying around in the fridge, so I ate that, and it was time to fish up one of my most favourite decorative items in the game, the iridium crobus. It did take a while for the line to actually activate to pull it up, but I got it eventually, and that was another nice collectible. So I gave the bear an octopus today, but he still wasn't happy. He demanded that I bring him more items, so I clicked on him after giving the octopus, and what he was looking for here was actually a mushroom dish. I thought it was a carp surprise, but it was actually a fried mushroom he wanted. So I made the fried mushrooms from ingredients I had lying around the house. I also made a carp surprise because they looked, in all fairness, quite similar, but it was the fried mushrooms he wanted. That was another quest done for the trash bear. Then he wanted, I believe, an artichoke dip, and I needed milk to make this recipe. I sold all my cows, I didn't have milk, so I couldn't actually continue that quest chain. I also got the Junimo plush from the bush since it was the last day of the season, 12 o'clock, get it from the bush there. I spent the rest of the day doing what I normally do on Ancient Fruit Day, and that's pull up Ancient Fruit out of the ground like a pro. And this would have taken the whole day because there's so many Ancient Fruit. The next day was just filling up all the kegs with new Ancient Fruits. We now had less than 20 days to go to see if I could get enough money together to get the gold clock before the 300 days. It's going to be very exciting to see if I can actually pull that off, if I can get the gold clock within 300 days of playing this game, if I can get perfection. I also had to bear in mind that the obelisks were going to come in at a total of 2 million as well, because the 2 obelisks were worth 500,000 and the 2 others were worth 1 million each. So I started with some of the basic obelisks, 500,000 gold for each one. It was time to start putting these on the farm. I didn't actually have enough resources to make the obelisk to Ginger Island, so I had to go farm dragon's teeth to actually make that. I needed 10 dragon's teeth in total. I did have a lot of dragon's teeth, but I used them all up to make warp totems so that I could get to Ginger Island without paying Willy that ferocious 1,000 gold that he charges. So I spent the whole day inside the volcano dungeon trying to get to dragon's teeth. When I had them, I went straight back to the wizard, and that was the final obelisk I needed. One step closer to perfection. What I needed now was 1 million gold for the gold clock. Those obelisks did put me back to 2.8 million, but it had to be done sooner rather than later, so I might as well do it sooner and get it out of the way. I should have actually done it earlier to make progression a little bit faster, because those warp points would have come in fierce handy and they would have saved me resources. It was time to sell a couple of more batches of ancient fruit wines. Let's see how much money I'm going to get from these. 3.3 million gold. Is it enough to get the gold clock? It is not. I needed a good few more stacks to actually get it. I had 6.2 million gold at the moment. It was time for another key quest. I did look at the key crops. I said no, couldn't bring myself to doing that again. So I just went with 4 precious stones. Just had to get 4 prismatic shards. I had about 20 of them, so it's going to be no problem getting those. Put those into the box. More key gems for me, and that means more deconstructors, which means more stone, bigger profits. Once these deconstructors were purchased, it was time to look for more secret collectibles in the game. There was an actual really cool print here called a foliage print that I fished up from the waters in Ginger Island. That would make another nice real cool picture to be added to my lovely Stardew Valley farmhouse. I then headed on over to the desert and I fished up the pyramid eagle here, which is another really cool picture that I can add to the farmhouse. So because there was no ancient fruit to pull up out of the ground or kegs to put ancient fruit into, it was back to using the deconstructors, putting the staircases into them, getting back stone, selling the stone for even more money. It was going to be very, very tight in terms of if I was going to be able to get this gold clock or not. I have to admit, I actually totally forgot about giving the rabbit's foot to this driver here to get the lucky charm. I've only got around to doing it now and I'm on day 286. I feel really embarrassed about it, but it totally slipped my mind because I was so focused on making money. To be honest, I just totally forgot about it. It did, however, give me a full wallet, so I had all of the wallet items finally achieved. I could have gotten that lucky charm ages ago. I easily could have gotten it during the first 100 day video. It just totally slipped my mind. I also fished up a necklace from the Bathhouse area, give that to Abigail. You can also give it to Caroline for different dialogue as well, but I gave it to Abigail because I was in a generous mood. Abigail did lose it after all, so I done her a massive favour. I also, at 20 to 1, clicked on the bush here and I got a really funny scene of Mayor Lewis and Marnie jumping out of the bush and running away. What were they up to in that bush? Let's leave it up to the imagination. Day 287. It was time to pick up all of the ancient fruit. This of course was going to take us the whole day to do. Day 288, it was time to get all of that lovely ancient fruit and put it into the kegs. I did forget to fill up these kegs initially, so it was another big mistake on my part, but I'll do it now anyway. It was now quite a challenge to fill up all of the kegs within the day that I was given. I was always cutting it close. It's 10 past 1 now at the moment, and look at all the kegs that I still have to get through. So I did try to the best of my abilities to get all of these ancient fruit into the kegs before the timer hit 2 o'clock. I did actually get all of the ancient fruit in there. I just didn't have enough time to actually harvest all of the kegs, but that didn't really matter because I could just harvest those kegs the next day. The main thing was that I got all of the ancient fruit in there to maximize ancient fruit wine profits. So we are now on day 289. It was time for another key quest. So we're going to go with Key's Hungry Challenge, stay away from the key crops. We've done that twice now, you know, we've worn the t-shirt. 25 key gems, easy enough with that one. We'll just use some staircases. I also spent a good portion of today watering these crops because I kind of ran out of rain totems, so I had to use the iridium watering can. But later on that day I did go back down to the Skull Cavern, completed the challenge, no bother at all. I got a lucky ring here from a barrel. I actually could not believe it. The amount of barrels that I had to smash open to get that second lucky ring was staggering. But I was super happy with that. I finally got my second lucky ring. Super chuffed. Will I use that ring? We'll find out very shortly. There's only a few days left to go for this challenge video. So I decided to sell all of the rings that I had accumulated over the past few hundred days to Barney because I wasn't really using them. Some of these rings were really good, but I just wanted to get extra money. So everything I had that I didn't need, it was sold basically. I did think about selling the lucky ring or not, or should I use it. To be honest, I just sold it because the challenge was almost finished. It wasn't going to make much of a difference, and it was 100 gold in my pocket. I did go to Willie's boat area here and I fished up another really cool decoration called the Lifesaver, and you can hang this up inside your house as well. It makes for another really cool decoration. So it was back to putting staircases into the deconstructors, story of my life, getting back stone, selling the stone. We all know how it goes at this stage. Then I went to the quarry, and this time I decided to blow up all the trees because I didn't really need much wood anymore. This was greatly satisfying. You just can't beat going into a condensed area like this with mega bombs and just laying siege to the entire area. Look at all these resources I was picking up. All of those stone walkway floors sell for 1 gold a pop, including the sap and the wood. It would all be sold. Some of it would be processed into other items. For example, the iron bars I was going to process into spinners. They sell for 250 gold a pop, so that was going to make me a nice profit there. And once all these spinners were sold, it was then time to see how much money I made. 1.1 million gold. That was primarily from selling ancient fruit wines as well. But was that enough on day 291? No, 7.6 million. I was getting close, but it was going to be very hard to see if I had enough money to make it to the gold clock by day 300. I did spend the rest of the day using up the rest of my bombs, just blowing open trees to get wood. To be honest, I had nothing else to do. I could have put staircases into deconstructors, but my willpower to do that was more or less down to 0. So I decided to have a little bit of fun instead and just blow up Cindersap Forest and collect all that lovely wood in the process, and sap and everything else. With the sap that I actually accumulated, I made some trap bobbers, and I sold those for 200 gold a pop. So that was more fishing tackles I was going to sell as well. This was only going to make a dent in the gold that I had, but all these dents add up over the hundreds and hundreds of days that you play the game, so it was still important to maximize the resources that I had and to process them into items that would have given me much greater value. Of course, I was deconstructing more staircases back into stone. 84,000 gold there, primarily from selling stone and a few other bits and bobs like slime and things like that. The 294 begins with me kissing my wife to the point where she spins around a few times. It must have been one hell of a kiss. And then the rest of the day is spent picking up all of this ancient fruit. The question is though, will we have enough time to get the last batch of wines we need to get the gold clock by day 300? At this moment in time, I had absolutely no idea. So all I could do was just keep getting on with it and just grinding away. The grind was almost finished. I did decide to go to the Stardew Valley Fair today to change it up a bit, and I did give Mayor Lewis a nice surprise. Look at all the lucky shorts and the truffle oil to top it all off inside my Grange display. Mayor Lewis was not impressed at all. He did, however, give me 750 star tokens to get rid of all that as quickly as possible. But I decided not to. I decided to leave it there and let the town know just what kind of a man Mayor Lewis is. With the 750 star tokens I got, I did go to the shop here, purchased a few nice things. I got the dried sunflowers, they make for a nice decoration. And I also got the fedora hat as well. And I left in style without collecting my Grange display items, so everyone can see Mayor Lewis's purple shorts and the truffle oil that he also asked for. Day 297. It is time for another key quest. Keys Hungry Challenge is on the list, of course. We had staircases to burn, 25 key gems, so why not? Back down into Skull Cavern, I got a seed maker here. And seed makers are actually really nice. Now, not so much at the moment, but if I got it 100 days ago, it would have been great. I did spend my key gems on another deconstructor, and now I had a room filled up to the top with deconstructors. So I could now deconstruct more staircases for more stone to make more money. I did the same on day 298. I didn't know what else to do. I was so close to getting 10 million gold. So close. I literally spent the whole day just deconstructing staircases. This was the best method I had to get the most out of a day in terms of making money. 48,000 gold today from selling stone. Have you ever saw so much stone in your life? Let me know in the comments. I haven't. Back to the slime hutch to get more slime. Wasn't a whole lot of slime balls at the moment, but it was better than nothing. Probably guess what I did after this. Yeah, you guessed correctly. It was deconstructing more staircases back into stone to maximize the profits of today. Was this enough to get me the 1.2 million gold I so desperately needed to get the gold clock by day 300? Unfortunately, it wasn't. So it was day 300, there was only one day left on the ancient fruit, which was a total bummer. If that ancient fruit had grown, I could have potentially gotten the gold clock today, which meant I would have completed the gold clock by day 300, but I did not. I did grab these battery packs though, and I'll sell these because why not? What else am I going to use them for? So, day 300, we didn't get the gold clock, but what a challenge it was. So I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll upload the next Stardew Valley video in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. I know what you're thinking at the moment. Why not play the next 1 or 2 days to achieve perfection? It's because it's a 300 day video. So there you go, folks. 300 days done. And that is actually a joke. We are actually going to continue until we achieve perfection. If you doubted me for any moment that I would actually stop the video there so close to perfection, shame on you. You can, however, make it up to me by subscribing to the channel and helping my channel grow. Day 301, we are pulling ancient fruit up from the ground. This will be the last time we have to do this. Praise the Lord. The kegs were also finished as well. So I'm going to get all of these lovely ancient fruit wines out of these kegs, sell everything, and make a total of 1.2 million gold. Is that enough to get the gold clock? Let's find out. Day 302, what do we have? Enough to get the gold clock. Yes, 10 million gold. Straight into the wizard's house. The gold clock for 10 million gold. Yes, please. Where are we going to put this magnificent structure and finally attain perfection? We'll just slap it down there, just over where the slime hutch is. Ah, there we go. That just felt so good. You have no idea how good that felt. Let's have a look at the perfection tracker. 100% complete. Perfection has been attained. All produce and forage shipped. Obelisks on farm, gold clock on farm, monster slayer hero, great friends, farm level maxed out, all star jobs, cooking recipes made, crafting recipes made, all fish caught, all golden walnuts found. We have attained perfection. We finally did it. It took us 302 days. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it in 300 days, but in all fairness, I think 302 days isn't too shabby to attain perfection with just a discount rate of 25%. It was time to ascend the steps and go up into the summit where we get the official ending of Stardew Valley. The game doesn't technically end, but this is more or less an ending scene. I kiss my lovely wife Hayley, who has been with me through these troubling times of relentless grinding, and we get to enjoy a lovely cutscene. What a challenge this was. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my lovely community for your support. Without you, this video never would have been made, so thanks very much for that. Go back up to the volcano area, you will get that hat I currently have equipped to my character from a monkey you can talk to. You can also purchase a golden egg from Marnie for the 100,000 gold. You can also get it for the 100 key gems as well from Key's secret walnut room if you want golden chickens on your farm, which are one of the most profitable animals in the game. So we are now officially going to leave it there. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this series. More 100-day videos to come. Thanks a million for watching this. I will release a movie in the next few weeks compiling all of these videos together. That's something you can look forward to as well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It would really help me out. I'm really trying to grow the channel to 100,000 subscribers this year. It would be quite the achievement if I could get that. It just means a much larger, cozier community. So I hope you all have a great week. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.